Hi students, you have come a long way. Today is our last chapter. Before we start a new lesson, as usual, I'd like to take a few seconds to review what we have learned last chapter. Remember last chapter we learned how to compose an application letter, or some people may call it as a cover letter. Okay, these are the elements you need to conclude in your application letter. The first thing you need to mention is, where did you get this information? How did you know this post available? And then you need to know what position are you applying for. And then you stress your suitability for this post, for this job. And of course, be sure in your application letter you will mention that you enclosed a resume or a CV in your letter. And then, of course, you want to conclude your letter with a polite, courteous request to ask for an interview, given an interview. And of course, you may think after this you have done all you can do. Is that really true? After you send out the application letter, there is nothing you can do? Well, this is what we are going to cover today. We're going to talk about to send a follow-up letter. So here we go. Let's look at our chapter focus for today, and then we'll learn more. The first one is to learn why it is necessary to send up a follow-up letter after interview. 同学们，今天第一个重点是要学习interview 之后为什么需要再寄发一个跟进信。Second, you want to learn the tips of composing a follow-up letter. 学习如何写一封跟进信。Okay, 同学们，follow-up letter 跟进信 there's有两个情况 okay? We call pre-interview. When you send off an application letter, you may not hear from them. After you waited and waited, you don't hear from them. So you will send a follow-up letter to double confirm, hey, did you receive my application letter? That was for that purpose. 就是 pre-interview. 你还没有被给予 interview, 所以你也没有得到回音，你就会问他说，嘿，你 send us a follow-up letter, 说，嘿，你有没有收到我的 application letter? There was another situation. You will send off a follow-up letter. That is that you've been given an interview, and you are still waiting for the answer if you get a job or not. In this condition, you will send a follow-up letter, or we call a thank you letter. You thank them for taking time and give you an interview, and then you go further and see if they will give you a job offer. So in our chapter, we focus on this area. You've been given an interview, so that now you haven't heard from them, so you send off a thank you letter. 同学们，刚刚老师说的哈 ，a follow-up letter 有两个情况，一个是你还没有被给予 interview， 你可以问对方有没有收到你的 application letter。第二个情况也是我们今天会 focus 的情况，就是你已经被给予 interview 了，那还没有确定你有没有得到这个工作，这个时候呢，你会写一封 thank you letter， 还是名目上是谢谢他们，但是其实你是再一次的要跟进follow up, see if this job is open for you. So this is what we are going to learn. And now we're going to talk about why we need to write a follow-up letter after an interview. Okay, this is the reason. First, you want to keep the potential employer's attention on you. 寄发这封谢函的目的就是使对方能够记住你哈，能够 attention on you. The next one, you want to obtain a further interview or an opportunity for the job. 当然，你希望可以被进一步再给第二个 interview, 第三个 interview, 甚至得到工作。然后你要 show your good manners and demonstrate your professional correspondence ability. 当然，在能够这么做，寄发一封谢信，也可以让对方展示你的professional 的这个写文书的能力哈。The next one, you might want to ask about when do I write a follow-up letter? 如果这是很重要，什么时候写呢？Well, after the interview and get in the mail the same evening, so it arrives in the next day or two. 同学们，这样子的 interview 的follow-up letter， 你不要拖太久，拖太久就失去了那个意义。So what you need to do, you need to send it within a day or two. 这是我们说的哈，1-2天之内或48小时之内，你就可以 send it to the potential employer. And then what kind of format you want to send this follow-up letter? 用什么样的 format 呢？好，这是我们的建议。That can be hard copy, typed, handwritten, or emailed. 同学们，在这样子的一个谢卡的谢函，我们说谢函哈，你可以用这3种方法，一个就是 hard copy， 你就 typed。用那个文书作业打一封信出去，或者是你可以用手写，就写一张谢卡用手写。当然，现在因着时效的关系，你很希望对方很快收到你的谢卡，你可以用 email, and that would be okay as well. And now let's take a look at our example for today. OK， 我们来 browse 这封我们寄出去的信，这是用传统的书信，你看到的上边就是你的 company 的 letterhead, your name, your address, your contact email address. And now you're moving down to inside address. OK, crown van lines. 你也给 human resource manager, you get attention. And you got the date, the salutation. 所以你已经知道谁 Miss Chen， 你知道他是他的 Human Resource Manager. That is good. 你已经知道，你已经 interview 完了，你知道谁 interview 你，所以你寄这封信给他。千万不要在这边写 Dear Sir or Madam. That would be inappropriate. Okay, let's move down. So 待会我们会细看这些内容。好，我们看你不能忘记你的 signature. Okay, 你的 signature 不一定很清楚，不管你的 signature 清不清楚，你要再 type 一次你的名字。And of course, you remember, 在这个enclosure 里头，这封 follow-up 谢卡哈，你就是可能会附上一些别的东西，比如说在我们的范例里头，你附上你的成绩单，附上你的推荐者的名单。这有一个情况是什么呢？就是 during the interview, the interviewer may ask you to provide certain kind of information.But you were not ready at that point. So when you come back and you do something to respond to their request, 在这个情况就是对方要求你的成绩单，要求推荐者的名单，所以你就附上去了。在这个时候，你一定要记住，马上附上。Okay, we're going to check it out, but before we do that, let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Okay, students, we're going to check it out and to learn something. What is the purpose of writing a follow-up letter? 写一封跟进信函的目的到底有什么目的呢？跟进信的这个目的是什么？我们来看第一个。第一个是 show appreciation for the employer's interest in you. Okay, 首先你要让他知道也很感谢他，他对你有兴趣哈，给了你一次机会 interview。And the next one, you want to restate your interest in the position. 当然，你也要再一次的透过这个thank you letter， 让对方知道你对这个工作非常感兴趣，也就是你很想要得到这个工作。第三个部分呢，就是 you review or remind the employers about qualification for the position。当然，你也要趁这个机会让对方知道你的qualification 你很符合这个工作资格各方面，再一次的提醒他们你很适合。再还有下一个点呢 if you thought of something that you forgot to mention in the interview and then you mention this in the follow-up letter。 当然 follow-up letter is serve the purpose you fill in, you provide more information that they requested。当然，在这个时候，你 interview 有什么没有预备完整的或没有回答完整的 ，you can conclude， 你就在这个 follow-up letter 包括进去。当然，最后还有一个目的，就是 you demonstrate that you have good manners and know how to write a follow-up letter。当然，很重要的，你要展现你有这个能力这样子的很好的态度你知道怎么写一封 follow up letter， 因为很多人会忽略做这个动作，所以当你多做了一点，你比别人的机会就多一点。当然，在这个 employer 的心中，你也留下更好的印象。So it just give you more opportunities to get this job. And now we're going to learn what should be included. If this is important to write, to send off, and follow up later, so what should be included? 什么该包括在里头呢？我们现在来看我们的例句首先 you appreciate their time and are still interested in the company's employment opportunities. 你感谢他们给你时间，也说明你非常的希望得到这个工作。我们看我们的范例当中的第一段怎么告诉我们。All right， 这里说到 You thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me about the secretarial position in your company.Okay, I'm writing to let you know that I'm still very much interested in the position we discussed in our meeting this Monday. 所以在这一段里头，他很清楚地告诉对方，我很谢谢你在忙碌的时间花时间跟我谈这个关于这个秘书的工作。我写信告诉你，我还是对你这个工作很感兴趣。他也说到了，我们是这个星期天所讨论的所以同学们注意到，他在第一段里头，他完整的表示他的感谢，同时他也说明我是应征什么工作，甚至标示了什么时间。This is a good way because sometimes a company will have an interview, many different interviews.So you specifically mention what date you had that interview, so that can brush upon their memory, remember who you are and what day you are taking the interview. The next one, what should be included? You have something specific to contribute that would benefit the company.当然，在这一部分你要说到，就是你有一些特别的东西可以对贡献这个公司。我们来看我们的范例。在这个范例里头，我们说到了，他说 ，Through my education and experience, I have gained many skills and understanding of dealing with the office work. I do feel that I would be a perfect candidate for this position.Offering the quick learning and adaptability that is needed for this position. 他也说到了他呢在这里就很明确的说出他自己的工作的自己的qualification 资格很确定自己再多 list 一下自己会使公司因为你的能力可以使公司觉得 这个你会适合这个工作的这些话语哈。他说他的教育、他的经验啊，还有一些他感觉到他是一个很容易学习、很迅速的学习者，他觉得这个工作他可以是最合适的。所以同学们也不要觉得他很像很臭大，自己说自己是 perfect candidate。You have to demonstrate that kind of confidence. Otherwise,you say, "Oh, I'm no good," or "I'm not sure I can do that." 像这种话语，你不能表示，你应该诉说你是一个非常合适的人，你有足够的能力应付这个工作。So that is very important. The third thing you want to include is a respond regarding anything requested during the interview. 所以 after the interview,面试之后，只要有任何的东西是对方在 interview 有提到，但是你却没有完整的回答的，你要在你的 follow up later、thank you later 很迅速、很快速的回答。我们来看我们的例句，就出现了一个很好的例子。他说什么呢？他说 I have enclosed a copy of the college transcript.And a list of references that you requested. 我附上了一个大学的文凭成绩单，还有就是你要求的这个推荐者的名单。很显然的，在这个 interview 的当中，他被要求这个东西，可能他在现场没有预备好，所以 it would be a perfect time that you provide any information that you were requested.During the interview, but you were not ready at that time. So this is a great chance you responded immediately. So that was a great opportunity to demonstrate your responsibility. Well, the last thing you need to do is you want to indicate that you would like to hear from them soon.最后一件事情就是你要表示你很希望很快听到他们的回应。什么样的回应呢？当然就是包含是不是我得到了工作这是你写信的最重要的目的。所以我们看例句会怎么写呢？在我们的例句里头，他是这么说的 I look forward to hearing from you about this position. 我期待可以听到关于这个工作的一个情况结果。All right, students, this is about our example, and we take a closer look at each part and what you should write, what you should include in follow-up later. And right now, we move on to writing tips. The first writing tips for you is to send out your follow-up or thank you letters after the interview within 48 hours. 同学们，为什么这么重要？在48小时内就赶快寄呢？因为如果你太久了，超过2天，人家就忘记了你，或者是人家有别的事情 interview 什么就会搞在一起。所以最好的是在人家还很清楚你做完 interview 之后马上寄给他，这是很重要的。还有你会说老师一定要做吗？可不可以 I don't just depends 情况 No, this is a must. 为什么呢？这是同学们最常疏忽的一个部分，但是这个在忙碌的社会当中是常常被忽略做的，但是它的效果是非常大的，所以同学们一定不要怕麻烦。This is a must. You need to send off a follow-up later after interview, after you've been given an interview. And 还有一个同学们 you may think what do I write? What are the key things that I should write? Well, if you don't have much to say, you can just simply send a thank you card and send it promptly. That's the key. Okay, if you think you don't want to go further to send a mail, you can send it by email. That would be better than doing nothing. Okay, right? Let's move on to the next writing tip. You view your follow-up later as a sales letter. Okay, 同学们 the majority of applicant or job seekers, they tend to be passive, you know, they have a passive attitude. 什么呢？就是被动的态度。After they send up the application later, they just waited at home and waited and waited. They don't do any further action. So this is something you need to do. You send it off a follow-up later. And also in this letter, you want to restate your why you want this job and what qualification you have. And you might make a significant, you can mention your qualification and talk about 你可以贡献, you can make a significant contribution to the company. All right, let's move on to the next one. Personalize your follow-up letter. 在你寄发一个谢函的时候，你应该使你的谢函干净性有个人的特点。You need to think it through. 你的想法要很完整的表达了 show your professionalism as well. The next tip is you follow the same format as the cover letter. 同学们，当你寄出thank you letter 的时候，之前你已经寄出 application letter, resume， 所以这个时候呢，你的整个所有的格式要一致，好，你怎么摆放的，你日期所有的就是要保持一致，所以人家很迅速的可以找到你，你不要改变你的格式。还有一些特点，我们来看字幕。首先 ，you need to keep it short, but to the point. The next one is you don't try to sell yourself by adding lots of details. 同学们不要在这封 follow-up letter 放很多的 details， 还要再更多的介绍自己。其实这封信 simply just thanking them, but still you remind something to impress them that you thank them. Okay, and then the next one is make sure, of course, you say thank you in the text. This is the purpose. This is a key thing why you send the follow-up later. The last one is you need to remember to proofread. Okay, you make sure your grammar, your punctuation, your spelling are correct because such details really demonstrate you are a detailed person. 同学们，今天在这个writing tips 里头说到的这些每一个重点，你都应该把握。接下去我们就要进入到 question and answer section。记住我们有贵宾在我们当中，我们赶快来看 Jim McDonald，Mr. McDonald 给我们的回答。Hi students, welcome back to our last chapter, question and answer section, and welcome back, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Well, in this chapter, we have been learning how important to send a follow-up letter, a thank you letter after you send up your application letter. You know, in our culture, people tend to be more passive. After they send up the application later, they just waited and waited. Sometimes you can wait for a month, a week, a month. What about in USA? Are you the same? And what difference can it make if you send up a follow-up later after you send your application later to the company?
Sadly, it is the same in America.
Really?
The employers are so busy they don't get a chance to turn the thing around. So yes, it's very important and it can make a difference because that keeps the information before the people, your name before the people.
Right.
And you should tell them any additional information and show that you still have an interest in the company.
Good. You know, I know students have some questions for us. Let's take up their questions.
After the interview, we send a follow-up letter to the company. Can I just use the simple thank you card? Nothing inside, no further explanation. Is that okay?
You can send a simple thank you note. However, this is an excellent opportunity to let your employer know that you're still interested and you're still around and available.
So simple thank you may not be a great idea, right?
Right.
You want to do a little more to impress your future employer.
It's an open door, an excellent opportunity to
That's
make more
right.
information available.
同学们，sending a thank you letter is just not simply thanking them。你还有别的目的，你要趁这个机会使他们对你印象深刻，还能够记得你，以至于最终的目的你可以得到工作，这才是最后的那个最终的目的哈。所以 thank you letter you might want to add a little more than only thank you， 这么 simple。好了 ，we have the next question。
老师，我可以用E卡去谢谢他们给我面试的机会吗？我觉得E卡有很多很特别的设计，还有一些很酷的音乐，你觉得这样可以吗？
Okay, this student's question, she said, can she use an e-card to send to the company? She thought the e-card is cool, got the graphic, got the music. It just, would that be a great idea to send an e-card instead of a regular thank you card?
Not really. Not really. It sounds like a good idea. However, if you're seeking a marketing position or maybe an advertising position, a creative position like that, you might send one, but you need to create it yourself. Using somebody else's work is not acceptable.
Okay, so that's good point. 刚刚他说了，除非你是应征一些是属于那种设计性的这种工作，你可以，但是呢，你不能够直接拿别人的工作，你要自己设计，那是可以接受的。但是一般来说，如果同学是应征一些工作，这样子的 e-card 应该要避免。Okay, next question.
After sending thank you letter, how can I know such an important email has been received or not?
With email, it is very simple. You can command your computer to make the adjustment, adjust the computer to say when the item was opened and read, not necessarily read, but when it was opened. And with regular mail, we call it snail mail. That means very slow. You can send it certified or registered and get a receipt for when the person received it, so you would know at that point. That can become very expensive, so if you're going to do that, you might want to do it to only a few companies. Unless you have a high interest in the job, you wouldn't do that.
Very good. 刚刚这位Jim 老师说的，如果你是用 email 来寄发这个信，你知道在 email 系统里头你是可以做一些设定的，所以当对方收到信的时候，他是可以签收所以你知道对方已经收到了。那如果你是他刚说 snail mail， 就是 slow regular mail 是比较慢的，这个时候怎么办呢？他说有些可以用 register 挂号的方式，或者是加快的方式，当然会比较贵，你要付多一点的费用 for 这个 special service。但是如果你要寄发出去的话，你可能要选几个比较有可能中的工作哈，你选择性的来这么做是可能的。All right, well, we have one more question.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
Okay, let's move on to the last question.
In follow-up letter, can I add something to this letter, especially something I didn't mention or I missed when I was interviewed? Can I add here?
You most certainly can. It's an excellent opportunity to make this happen at this point. Add any relevant information you hadn't put in the past, but maybe even reiterate something you've said in the past.
That's right. Okay, 是的，同学们，如果当你 interview 完有一些事情你要补充，或者是你要做任何的任何的补充，这个 follow up later 你都可以顺便的提起，不单让对方可以认识你哈，记得你，而且你还可以补充一些 information. And sometimes it's during the interview, the interviewer asks for certain information, and the applicant not ready for those kind of information. So that would be a good time to add those information.
It certainly is.
Right.
Should we talk about churning?
Okay.
Okay, sure. There's a concept called churning. If they have your resume and you have no response from them, you can call them or write the letter and say, I have additional information to add to my resume. Okay. It's called churning. It churns it to the top, and it makes the personnel director see that more often. Okay. Sometimes it's unethical, and it's used as a ploy on the applicant's part, so it's not so good, but that's what the term is.
刚刚 Jim 老师提到的还有一个就是在美国的工作职场中会这样子，就是你应征信寄出去之后，你后来想到你有一些 information 要再增加，你可以打电话到那个公司或 send the information to the company， 你就告诉他你要增加什么。在这个做的过程中，因为你有一叠的应征信在这个公司里，公司可以把你的应征信抽出来，又放到上边，所以给你增加多一点的机会吧啊！这是在他刚所分享的。同学们，这是这学期我们所 cover 的进阶商用英文书信。Okay, hope what we have covered be helpful to you. And thank you, Jim, for coming to my program.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, thank you, student, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
好冷的天，好久没有感受团圆的温暖。100年接